Hey guys, hey ladies, hey friends, hey foes. We just wanted to take a second to remind you that while we're okay swearing when little ears are listening, you might not be, and that's okay. So here's your chance to pause us and wait for nap time, or pop in your earbuds. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Welcome back to another episode of Done Playing by the Rules. My name is Janelle.
And I'm Jenna.
And today, Jenna and Janelle are going to talk about how we compare ourselves to each other and pit ourselves against each other. Right, Jenna?
Either that or we'll go off on a tangent. We'll see what happens.
Jenna and I have been tangenting for like 15 minutes pre-recording, but
they've all been like really funny ones.
They are funny. We were thinking we should start a rambling podcast because we think we're really funny, just chatting. Our topic today is going to be how to stop comparing yourself to others. But first of all, Jenna, do you have any new update? Oh, Jenna's got Hip Corner update.
Which if you've been following along for a while, you know I haven't been able to run pain-free since May. I was told I probably wouldn't be able to run again, but I got the okay to do like 10 strides at a time. So I just did like a 20-minute walk run and it felt good. So I was excited.
I am so happy. At the beginning of this, we did like an episode a little bit back where we were like crying about how you were never going to run.
I know. And so like even if I can't do it like weekly, like if I have to give myself that long time in between, I'm okay with it. At least I know I can run like if I have to.
This is better than we thought your overall end result would be.
Exactly.
And okay, so what did you do? You found a PT that specializes, or what did you do?
No,
what do you
like
recommend?
A chiropractic PT.
Ooh.
So, because I feel like the PT I was going to just didn't really help. And then they like pushed me into running and it hurt. And then they were like, okay, we can't do anything. Go see a surgeon. And then the surgeon's like, well, you need to do more PT. And I'm just like, y'all just keep throwing me back and forth. I just keep paying for x-rays and like all these specialties. And they were like, but you're so young. Like, we don't want to do surgery. And then it's like the PT is like, well, you need surgery. So I was kind of like, oh, well, let me go back to my chiropractor. Because when I was pregnant, I had a lot of hip issues to where it was like painful to like lift my legs or walk. And I, with my first pregnancy, had gone to chiropractor, didn't do anything. And then this chiropractor uses like a little activator, which is like a little like pogo stick thing. Doesn't feel like it even does anything.
Pogo stick.
Yeah. And by that night I could walk.
It doesn't feel like it does anything. Isn't it wild?
Yeah. And then I had another flare up with my hips during pregnancy and same thing. I mean, it felt like nothing and she fixed it both times. And she's done so many things for me. I was like, why haven't I been going to her? I think I thought, okay, this is an injury. Like you physically hurt yourself. You tore something. So she referred me to somebody in the same office that does a lot of PT stuff. And it's been great. I mean, it's like
chiropractors are heroes.
Yes. And she's like, let's see, you know, the thing she's been focusing on is like, let's see where that line is. Like, where do you start to feel pain? Okay, let's build up all that stuff prior to it, make that really strong, and then see if that helps get us further. And it has. And so it's like, holding a squat hurts. So now we're doing like jump squats where I come straight up. But like at the very beginning, any kind of squat hurt. And now I can actually like jump and skip. And I was proud there.
I just want you to be jumping and skipping around. I love that look.
We have a line down our driveway right now, and it's my skip line because I was like leaning to one side because of the like hurt leg. I was not. So I have to skip on a straight line. And we taught our son to skip, which was very challenging, but I was very proud because he finally got it.
So. He's meaty. Skipping's hard when you're meaty on the lower half.
Yes. And he just has a hard time like breaking things down like slow. Like, no, I just want to do it. And it's like, you're not doing it. So.
That's my kids with jumping jacks. It's just like the most insane flailing of legs and arms. And I'm like, no, slow it down.
Right.
Stop.
And if you're not one of those blessed people that's naturally coordinated, it's a whole thing.
Yes.
So what's new with you? Anything?
Just trying to figure out what's wrong with my eyeball still. Oh, new eye doctor, cornea specialist. They are actually testing me. And this, I only bring this up because I think it's important, which I've never heard of. They are testing me for, what's it called? Sjogren syndrome, but it's spelt how you would not expect it. Jogen syndrome. But he said this is actually something that usually affects fertility.
What?
So, yeah. So he goes, I always tell patients, so this can cause, it's actually like an autoimmune disease that reduces moisture production in your body. So like if you have dry mouth, dry eyes, your fingers are cold, it typically affects, so this is my high is when he said it typically affects thin Caucasian women. And I was like, hell yeah. And then he was like, over 40. And I was like,
Oh,
oh,
shit.
okay.
And then did he throw in the, you're close enough?
You're close enough. And I was like, well, I'm not 40. He's like, you're 37. And I was like, okay. But he said, I always tell patients when I treat this, if this is what it is, he said babies start falling out of people that have fertility issues. So he said this is something that infertility people don't look into, and it's just a blood draw. So friends with infertility, check into this. It's just a blood draw quest, and look into this autoimmune disorder if you have any of those symptoms, because
is there treatment for it?
We haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay.
We'll see. I probably should have read the rest of it. I just was like, fine, I'll go take your dumb test.
Yeah.
It's genetic and whatever. But if that's the cause of the goal now is to get me out of glasses by hopefully April. So I'm going to be looking like this for a while. And he said,
I like it. It's cute.
Sometimes contacts aren't for everyone, which I felt like was the gateway to I'm going to be in glasses for the rest of my life. So
then you just get a lot of cute ones. And
here we are. I'm going to have so many glasses. It's going to be amazing.
Do you have more than one?
No, these are old. These are so scratched up. They're like an old prescription. And he's like, because I'm legally blind, my vision is so bad, like the very tip of being legally blind. He's like, people with your vision see terribly with glasses regardless. And I was like, I agree, I do. And masks with glasses is just a treat. I don't know how you people have all been doing it this whole time. Bless you if you're wearing a mask with glasses all the time.
Yep. My dad was the same, like legally blind, I think, or like almost, or whatever. And he had we called them Coke bottles because the bottom of them were so thick. And he said it was that he hated wearing his glasses because it was almost like nauseating. Because if he ever looked down or the side, it's like complete blur. And
that's why I get big ones. Because remember when the thin square ones were in, I was always like, oh, this is terrible because I can't see anything peripherally.
But I look so cute.
But I look so stylish in 2010. I'm glad
I like the
new
ones.
In.
I am too. They're cute.
Whatever. Really I live like this now. I'm used to it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's dive in.
So Jenna and I are going to compare ourselves to everyone that we're jealous of. No, I'm just kidding. So we did want to differentiate. There's being jealous of people, and then there is comparing ourselves to people. One of the articles that I will link talks about, she's in this friend, the gal that wrote it is in this friend group. And all of a sudden, everything's going great. She feels great about herself. And a new friend joins the group. Okay. And this new friend is everything I thought I wasn't. Bright, funny, outgoing. People adored her instantly. And luck always seemed to land squarely at her feet. And this is by Victoria Stokes. And I will link it. And I think each of us can think of somebody that seems perfect in our minds that we enjoy occasionally feeling bad about ourselves and comparing ourselves to.
So that's not jealousy though. So what is the difference?
She feels like those are things she lacks in.
Okay.
And so her friend shows up and has all of these qualities that she feels like she lacks it. And so she is envious. I guess, the jealousy line is tough. I was thinking about it this morning. I was going through my list of people that I admire and compare myself to. And I was like, am I jealous of them or am I comparing myself to them? I compare myself a lot to moms that have more kids than me and jobs.
Okay.
I always feel
I wonder why.
Because I feel like I have 2 kids and I possibly have 2 more than I should. It is, and I stay home and I have all the autonomy in the world. And then there's these inspiring women that I know that have 4, 3, one kid that have these huge careers and get dressed up nice every day, and their kids are thriving in their super fun social daycare settings. And I just am always like, how am I keeping two kids alive? How am I doing it? But then when I talk to my friends, they're like, I couldn't do what you do. And I'm always like, oh, you don't mean that. You could totally do what I do. And
Yeah.
I always dismiss it. And in these articles, they talk about trying to learn not to dismiss when someone compliments you. But it's very hard when I just see
Yeah.
all these women with 20 kids and amazing careers. And I'm just like, I'm trying to get mine to start wiping their own butts.
Yeah. Well, and I think that kind of goes along with like our second part of this topic is like your best is enough and your best is
Yeah.
your best. And like that's a
Yeah.
good thing is like I have some friends that are like, I could never be a stay-at-home mom. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't think I could work and raise kids. So like I think it's your best. It's what you are good at and what
Yeah.
you want out of life. Like I am
Yeah.
very content staying home. And I have a lot of friends who stay home and then they're like, but I think I want to go back to work. And then they go back to work and then like, no, I think I want to stay home. And like they keep flip-flopping. And I don't know if
That's
it's
gonna
like,
be me as soon as my kids go to school, because all I keep thinking in my head is like, I can't wait to go to work. I want to have a job and
really?
dress up cute and
Yeah.
like have friends and like lunch and all of this stuff. And like, but I know that I'll be like, I'll flip flop 15 times
Yeah. I mean, I
probably.
think like once my kids aren't home, then it'll be a different situation. But
Mm-hmm.
like right now, like this is just, I'm content doing that. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
people get into the compare mode and it's like, well, if she can work and raise kids, then I should be doing that. I shouldn't be staying home. And then it's like when you're at work, oh, well, I should be home with my kids. And you just kind of get, what is it like? Whatever you don't have, you want kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
The
feel like
grass
a
is always
lot of
greener.
that, yeah, a lot of us are doing that to ourselves.
And in this time of social media, that's another big thing in one of my articles is
That is the biggest thing.
we're
Yeah.
seeing everyone's highlight reels, and I'm home with sick kids and we're COVID testing and like it's chaotic, and I'm watching everybody on vacations. And
Mhm.
that's something that I try not to do too, which one of these articles talks about is like, who are you posting your vacation pictures for? Take into consideration there's a lot of people that can't go on vacation, can't afford to, can't take the time off, can't whatever. So maybe lower who you're sharing your like, look at my new car, look at my vacation, look at my new outfit, look at my like, that makes some people feel really bad. And there's two sides to that. There's the school
Mhm.
of thought that is like, well, I worked hard and I earned this, so I'm not going to be shy about it, which would be my husband. And me, who's like, I'm secretly on vacation, don't tell anyone. Like, because I feel terrible that like everybody can't go on vacation when they want to. And so the mindless scrolling and watching everybody else's highlight reel has just really heightened this acute knowledge of what the Joneses have and what
Right.
Mrs. Jones is able to do that you can't.
And there's a lot that goes along with that. Like social media is a huge part of this.
Mm-hmm.
One is that when we're comparing ourselves, we're not saying like, oh, I have this and they have that, and thinking like highly of ourselves. We're comparing our worst and think about what they're
True.
posting. They're posting their
True.
best. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe right now is not a great time for your family to go on vacation, whether it's you're struggling with your spouse or you're recently separated or divorced or money is tight. But these people might be in a good place in their life and this is their highlight, but not everything has been roses and sunshine and easy
Mm-hmm.
for those people.
Yeah.
And so they probably have some struggles going on behind the scenes or have recently got over some. And so when we're at our worst, and that's the other thing that we've talked about before, is like whenever we get into those hard moments, it's so easy to just get on Instagram and mindlessly scroll. And now you're
Yes.
comparing yourself and you're just going to make yourself feel worse every time.
It's so fun to just go on Instagram, and then you can compare your body to celebrities' Photoshop bodies. You can compare your vacation to celebrity vacations. You can compare your career to your friends. Like, it is
Right? Yes.
the worst. The
Yeah.
worst.
And like we've talked about before, like most people post happy things on their social media.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're not going to post the fact that their son has been throwing a temper tantrum all week and their daughter won't eat any of the food that they packed. Like you're going to see them playing on the beach and having fun. You're not going to see these behind the scenes, or like the mom is so stressed out that she might have cried herself to sleep because she planned this vacation and no one's grateful. That's not what you're posting. And so you're sitting here comparing yourself, and it's like, is that really what happened?
Who do you compare yourself most to?
There's a few. So like, I guess one would be my mom, which isn't fair. And like, I think sometimes I have this distorted image of her in a positive way. And I do know that we had a lot of hard times, that she went through a lot of I mean, dude, she had cancer multiple times, including when I was 2. But everything just looked so positive and perfect. And she made our childhood so special. And like, I feel like she was such a patient person with us. But I also know that's probably not exactly true. I just don't remember those harder times. Like, I remember a few. So that's definitely one. And is it wrong to say I don't do a ton of comparing?
No, because I think that you're very content in your life. I'm always kind of the more like, what's next? I need the next big adventure. Josh and I are the same way. Like, what's the next big thing we can do? What's the wild, crazy adventure circus that we can put on? And so I don't think it's wrong, but I can see that you compare yourself to your mom. And I think that's very common. Josh said that to me the other day, because I was like, before I got before I got diagnosed with ADHD, Josh was saying, like, how long do you want to be depressed about your dad dying? Do you think this is what your dad would want from you? Your dad was the funnest, biggest, live life to the fullest guy. Like, what would he want from you? And so I totally get, like, we romanticize these deceased parents, and it's hard. I also compare myself to people with like very seemingly strong marriages. Even though I feel like my marriage is very secure and very strong, I'm always like, could I be doing more? Could I be a better wife? Could I be a more understanding wife? Could I be a more submissive wife? Because Josh would love a more submissive wife.
Yeah.
And I just don't possess it in my DNA. So I think I compare myself a lot to like these wonderful, nurturing, kind wives that are like, stand by my man. And that's just not something that I possess.
Well, and I have had times where I compare myself, and I feel like that's kind of like when my depression was bad. And I didn't get depressed because I was comparing myself, but I do remember during my depression, like looking at people's stuff and being like, I wish I was them. Why can't I be happy like them? And I think that goes hand in hand with depression. It didn't, like I said, it didn't lead to my depression, but I was so deep in it that it just didn't it felt you always feel alone, I feel like, when you're depressed. I will say, if I do any comparing besides my mom, it's like a weight thing. So like, why can they lose weight and I can't, and I'm trying so hard.
I was thinking that this morning too. Yes, that's such a hard one.
Yeah, but I think a lot of it is like, I've also, since I've lost especially both of my parents, I started doing it a little bit after my mom. And then after I lost my dad, I've kind of like said, forget what society wants me to do. I'm just going to do it because I want to do it. It's not always easy, because I do take other people's criticism very strongly, and I'm a huge empath and I pick up when I upset people. But I feel like I've really learned to be like, this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it. And this is what I want to do. So this is what we're going to do. So
you are really good at that.
Yeah. And I mean, it sucks that it took losing parents to kind of realize that. But I also like, and it's crossed my mind many times, like, if I follow my mom's path, like, my life is more than halfway done.
I was thinking that the other day too. I was like,
I think we talked about that. Yeah.
It must have been us, because I was like, oh my God, I'm way over halfway done.
Yeah. Because my mom was in her 50s. And so I'm like, I don't have time for that shit. I don't have time to do what other people want of me. And I think this is a good time to kind of bring it up. We're recording this in January. I don't know when it'll be released, but it'll be at least before next New Year's. So,
but we're to save this for next year.
I think New Year's resolutions are something that should be talked about with this topic, because I feel like a lot of times this time of year, I get asked all the time, like, what are your resolutions? And last year I had 4. And I set them up, and they all kind of went hand in hand. It was like, meditate daily, run at least weekly, read, and it was like one more book that I had last year. I think it was like 36 books and do yoga weekly. I only achieved one of those resolutions, and it was read 36 books.
Yes.
However, it got to me that I didn't complete the other 3. But the reason I didn't complete the other 3 was the yoga and the running, I physically could not because I hurt my hip. So even though it was out of my control and I could not have predicted that, it still got to me that I didn't complete those. And then the meditation, like there'd be nights where I accidentally fell asleep on the couch, and I would do like, I did like series, like sometimes it was like a nightly meditation. Or there was times when I accidentally woke up late, and so I forgot to do it in the morning, and then at night I forgot to do it. And so it's just, I just felt like I was setting myself up for failure. And so this year, it's not something I can measure. It's just, I want to live each day as I want to live it. So
I love that.
Yeah, if today is a lazy day, I want to be a lazy day. I don't know. I just felt kind of like a failure, even though those things were out of
So you were comparing
my
yourself to yourself.
To myself, yeah. Which is like a big thing that a lot of us do. And I was like, why am I doing that? The goal with the running was that I wanted to become a better runner, which is completely fair. Yeah. But I feel like in life, setting goals for a whole year kind of set us up for failure. And so I've told myself that this year, if I want to accomplish something, I'm going to set up little goals that are pertinent to that exact stage. So right now I'm working on getting healthier. And so I signed up for this 30-day yoga. And so I'm going to complete 30 days of yoga. So far, like that's very attainable. Yeah. And there was a day when we went to visit my grandma and we didn't get home till late. So I skipped that day. So the next day I just did 2. And it's like, I'm still completing those 30 days. And that goal right now is very realistic. And when I complete that, then if I decide I want to do something else, I will. Because that's the other thing is we compete against ourselves. Yeah. And steal our own joy.
That's insane.
Isn't it?
You're totally right, though. We do. Well, I'm competing to get myself back down to my pre-baby weight, which is absolutely unattainable and absurd.
Please don't. You'll have no butt.
Don't. I'll have no butt. I know the butt's so good now, but I never even thought about that because one of my quotes in here is from Theodore Roosevelt: "Comparison is the thief of joy." But we're stealing our own joy by comparing ourselves to ourselves. What nutbags.
Right. Exactly. I know. It is.
Look at us. It really is.
And like, that's the best that I can do right now. Like maybe in 2 more years, or maybe when my kids are older, I'll set these awesome New Year's resolutions. And that's something I want to do. And I'm not saying I'm never going to set them, but I think again, it's like, this is my best right now. And I'm okay with that. And if you don't feel like you're living up to your potential and your best, maybe take a step and say, why do I feel this way? Am I committing my time to other places in my life when they should be focused on different things? Are you surrounding yourself with people who are always comparing and competing? I know that that's when I start to get down is like, you know, those friends that it's like, oh, well, we just bought a new car and we're going to da-da-da. Where are you going this summer for vacation? And if you're like, oh, we're saving money this year, it's like, oh, that works too. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like those types of comments and personalities. And the biggest one is just remembering to like love and be kind to yourself. We always preach it about others, but doing it to yourself is a big one.
That's the hardest one. And that's another part of this article, which I thought was interesting, is if you would use comparison as motivation to improve what actually matters. So we're comparing ourselves to pre-baby, we're comparing ourselves to other people's careers. But this article says the human propensity to want what others have is such a waste of time unless you see and covet in another something that is deeply worth it, such as generosity or kindness, which I thought was cool. Like, what if you put some, and it goes on to talk more in here about like, what if you put yourself in a position to try to only notice in others their generosity or their kindness and make that your motivating factor in comparing yourself versus like, oh, she snapped back to her pre-baby weight. She looks better than when I'm in a constant mental battle with a Peloton instructor that doesn't know I exist, whose body looks better than before she had a baby, and her baby's like 4 months old. I know who you're talking about. And I want to kind of punch her even though I love her. And so that's a really hard struggle because I'm like, how come some people get to just go right back and I have to just like be, ugh. But
But
like,
then, like, what's
I
going
know
on
nothing
behind the
about her.
scenes?
Yeah, I know nothing
Yeah.
about her. And I'm still sitting here like, well, she must have it all together. She's got
Yeah.
everything figured out. She's nursing her baby and doing 5 workouts a day. And like,
Yeah.
I have all the autonomy in the world, but I still can't quite get a grasp on what the hell's going on from day to day. And
Yeah.
so I think I am going to really try to make it a motivating factor of admiring and comparing myself to others' kindness and generosity and focusing on that instead of looks and monetary things. I'm not a big like money comparer. Money isn't a big thing to me.
Yeah.
My husband likes it. I don't, it's not a
Well, and I
huge.
think it's like not, I mean, not to sound like, oh, but like it's not something you really struggle with. And
Yes.
I know some people that do struggle with money. And so I do feel like it's a big compare thing. And it goes on like all aspects. Like, oh, I wish we had more money. And then it's like, oh, I wish we had a bigger house. I wish we had more vacations. Because to achieve those things, they need more money.
Yeah.
And I have always had the mindset of like, if you've listened to this, you know, I don't want a husband that travels because that's what I grew up with. And I've always told my husband, like, I don't care how much money you make. I do not want you to travel. And so the fact
Yeah.
that like we can live like we live and not have him travel, I'm like, okay, I'm good. Like, I'm not going to like sit here and dwell
I need a
on
husband that
that.
travels.
Right.
Good day, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, we could, I mean, if you travel, it's not always the case, but a lot of jobs that require you to travel for work, I mean, you make good money. But I just
Yeah.
knew like that's
Yeah.
not in our wheelhouse.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
I can't handle that. And with the comparing, I also noticed with like a lot of friends, and I've done it as well, is you never run out of things to compare. Like, I've had
Never.
friends or even myself, okay, well, now your husband did get a promotion. Oh, wait, but now you want something completely different? Like, you're on to the next comparison once you reach that other one. And that's where it gets
Yes.
really toxic and muddy and nasty. And yeah.
That's Josh. Josh is like one goal, next goal, one goal,
Yeah.
next goal, and never even for a minute celebrates attaining
Right.
something that he
Well,
never
and that's
thought
the
he
other
would.
thing is like, if you do have a goal for yourself, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, celebrate it once you reach it. Don't just be like, okay, now next one. Like, celebrate it and relish in it and think about how far you've come and maybe try and maintain that goal for a little bit. Like, if it's a weight loss thing or a job promotion, don't just quickly move on to the next one. Celebrate it for a little bit. And I feel like a lot, like, especially with like weight and career, it's really easy. Like, okay, which ladder can I climb next? Okay, I hit my weight goal. Well, now I think I could go further, you know, and it's just that
Yeah, why do
constant.
we push ourselves like that? I
Yeah.
decided at the beginning of the year, and I told Josh this when we were in Florida for Thanksgiving. I was like, I'm going to run a marathon next year. And he was like, okay, cool. And I was like, I'm going to do it. And then we got home and I started like training. And I was like, I don't like running for performance. Like, I don't like running for length. I don't like running for endurance. So this is going to be tricky. And I live in a winter, like it's glare ice outside today. So like, how am I going to do this? And then I like thought about it and I was like, why am I doing this? And I was like, oh, one of my good friends is marathon triathlete, has twice as many kids as I do. And I was like, I just thought it would be something like cool to check off my bucket list, but like I would have spent a year doing something I didn't enjoy for an arbitrary goal.
I'm glad you realized
And
that. Yeah.
it took me, and it was really fast too, which I was proud of myself. I was like, good job, me.
Hell
Like,
yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
do that. I want to do what workouts I feel like doing every day. And I like to get on the treadmill and run as fast as I can, as hard as I can. And that's not
Yeah, you
something that
can't do that in a
marathoners
marathon.
do. Yeah. So I'm just
No.
going to take away all of my running joy and make it into this like goal that may or may not end with an injury. Like, and I was like, I'm going to do the Boston Marathon next year. And Josh was like, okay, that's fine if that's really what you want to do. And I was like, it isn't really what I want to do after I did like 2 days of training, because I was like,
Yep.
steady state endurance is
Yes.
not my thing.
Exactly. That's a big point too. Like, that's not your thing. That's not your strength. And I think that's where it gets difficult too. Your friend might be a great athlete and is a natural runner. My husband is a natural runner. He can just go out and run 5 miles after eating a bag of Doritos and never training. Like, he ran a half marathon after barely training. And that's just how he is.
Yeah,
However,
there's people like
yoga kicks his butt. Anything fast
Uh-huh.
paced, like sprints, kick his butt. I can do that stuff all the time. I can do
Yeah.
yoga, and he like cannot do yoga. And it's not just the flexibility, it's just like the movements and the like
The
multi-point
flow of
strength.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's been working on it, but it does not come natural to him. When we do sprints, I mean, he's like bent over dying. And I'm like, I could do this all day. Well,
Love sprint.
pre-hip.
Yeah.
But I can't get out there and run distance. I don't have the
No.
endurance. And so it's like there have been times where I was like envious of him, like, oh my gosh, I wish I could. I was training for running for a while, and then he goes out and runs further than me, faster than me, and hadn't been training. And that was really
I know.
frustrating. But it's
I
like
was
you
mad
also have
that
to realize
I saw his run keeper that one day, and I was like, "Who the hell are you? Who the hell do you think you are? Get out of here!"
But I have to remember, like, there's things he's not great at that I am.
But I don't remember those things. I just think like, oh, I failed. I said I was going to do it and didn't do it and quit on day 2 of training. Like, meh, that's so Janelle.
Well, and so I think maybe we should get into like some solutions for it.
Fix me, please.
I mean, one is like we've preached on here and we have our moments is getting off social media. I really watch who I follow. Like I don't unfollow, like especially if they're a friend. But on the stories, like at the top, you can click like which ones you see. I have my tried and true like influencers that I go to for certain things. So there's one that has like great home decor. So if I'm redoing a room, I go to her account. If I'm not redoing a room, I'm not going to look at her account because then it's going to make me think I need to redo a room.
Yeah,
because
that's smart.
there's always new home trends, fashion trends, everything coming out. Same with homeschool. If we're like in a homeschool rut and I need some ideas, I'll go to those accounts. But I don't click on the stories at the top. I always watch your stories because I like them. And you always have funny quotes. I always
They're so
watch
self-deprecating too.
Yep.
They're just like,
There's
look at
like,
this mess my life is
I
now.
know. There's like 4 other friends I always watch, but I also always know what's going on in their lives. So
Yeah.
the pictures they post, I'm like, I also know like what else is
I knew you
really
were
going
doing
on
that.
in your life. Like
Yes, true.
under the scenes. And then there's a few influencers that I feel like, I guess they're influencers because they have a lot of following, but they don't push products. It's just their lives and it's not all sunshine and rainbows. And so like that's like the big one is just to get off social media, or if you don't want to get off, pick who you're watching. Like don't just click through stories. Like
and
click on each bubble.
People. You don't have to defriend people. You can unfollow people that aren't making you feel like your best self. When you go on to something and you compare yourself to someone constantly, that might be telling you this isn't a person for me right now. And maybe I'll check back in with you in a year and see how you're doing. But I do the same thing. I just quit social media for a month. I'm back on Instagram only now because Facebook is just like, Jenna loves Facebook because she does the buy nothing, but I don't buy nothing. I buy everything. So I have no business there. But social media is just the number one recommendation across the board in how to set yourself up to feel like shit.
Yep. And then another way to help is to, which we've preached here, is like, you don't have to do a journal, but like the gratitude movement. Doing a journal helps and makes you a little more accountable because you can see the days you've done it. I'll do it a lot with my kids. So like during bath time or at dinner. And I don't reprimand the answers they give me, but sometimes you can tell they're just trying to give me like quick answers and they'll say the same things a few days in a row. And so I'll try and come up with like really unique ones and get all excited about it. And then they'll try. That's a big one. And then it's like, oh my gosh, like look at how much cool stuff we have. Or like, I didn't even realize I should be grateful for that. And here my kid is showing me.
I love that. That's so smart.
The other one is just being content, which we've preached on here. There's a lot. I think meditation and contentment are really tied together. I don't know. I don't think setting
You're
goals
really
is a
good at
bad
this.
thing,
You could definitely be like a retreat leader of how to be content because I am not as content as Jenna. And Jenna is just happy. Jenna will be snuggling up in that blanket, happy as a clam for half the day today at least. And no fucks will be given.
But exactly. But I also think I know what the bottom looks like. I have been to the bottom. And so anytime I start to get down, I'm like, no, I know what the bottom looks like. I'm actually grateful where I am. Like Even if I'm
Yeah.
struggling mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever it is, I know what the bottom looks like.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm not there, like I'm content where I'm at. And then I'll say to myself, like, okay, maybe I need to do a little work to not get to that bottom again. And so I'll
Yeah.
put in a little more work. Yeah. And it doesn't mean like you don't have to set goals for your future. So for instance, we had a really tough last few homeschool days. And my goal this week was to be slightly better each day. That day when things were really bad, the whole day was bad. It was just one of those shitty days where I was like, I want to press restart on this day. And I want to put up blockers for all this stuff I know that's coming. Because it wasn't just homeschool. It was other stuff like family stuff, all this stuff coming in. And I did not handle it well. And so the next day was still a rough day.
Yeah.
But I think I yelled slightly less. And I apologized to everyone. So I was like, that was better. Was it perfect? No. And then today, I think I've only yelled once. And so I'm like, I'm doing better. Like,
I'm the best.
Yeah. And it doesn't
That's a really
have to
good goal,
be,
though. So your goal doesn't have to be perfection, and your goal doesn't have to be measuring up against someone else. It can just be, can I be a little better today than I was yesterday?
Right.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I'm coming to your retreat. How much
always.
are you going to charge? $5,999? Sign me up.
For you, it's free. Just to get you here.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Yep.
That's another one that I wanted to touch on too, is another way is if you wouldn't say it to a friend, don't say it to yourself.
Ooh, yes.
Fucking hard, but true. It says this woman is speaking about talking to her therapist, and she says, the therapist asks her, how would you comfort a friend in crisis? Also naming your inner critic, which is in this article that I'm going to link called How I Learned to Stop Comparing Myself to Others by Victoria Stokes. She names her inner critic Sierra. And you actually give it like a real name. I know, I thought the same thing. I was like, Sierra, like now I can't stop thinking about Sierra, the musician. And whenever Sierra gets at the driver's seat and starts comparing her to other people, she says like, what's going on? Like, what do you need? And like speaks to it like it's a real person. And you should only speak to yourself the way you would speak to a friend. So would you ever like tell your friend like, oh, your thighs are looking jiggly today? Like,
right?
No, and that's another thing I also try to do. And this is unrelated, but I try to do it with my husband too, and I'm not great at it. But a rule I've read is don't talk to your husband like you would talk to your best girlfriend. And that's extremely hard because husbands are husbandy, but our partners are partnery. But I'm not any better. I think talking to yourself like you would talk to a girlfriend, if we could all even get 50% of that, we would be so much fucking nicer to ourselves.
That's true. And going back to your best is enough, like it has to be your best, not your neighbor's best. Like your neighbor is going to have different strengths. And it also doesn't mean that everyone is doing their best.
I know. So, yeah, that's true too.
And like right now, I'm consumed with homeschool. And so my house is not perfect. This is the best I can do right now.
Yeah.
Without taking myself to the extreme.
Yes.
With homeschool, things are a little rocky right now. Yelling a few times a day is the best I can do right now. We are not going to have a peaceful homeschool experience right now. We are just not in that phase. My son is struggling. I am struggling. I'm trying to figure it out. He's trying to figure it out. So like, that's where we're at. This is our best right now. Is it perfect? No. This is just where we're at.
Well, and there's two conflicting personalities coming into play there too. So
that's
like
true.
you can't fully blame yourself for this because I know I'm so well medicated right now that I'm basically an angel. And Zach showed up for homeschool with the tude of a 13-year-old this whole week.
Isn't it awful? I don't know if it's this almost 8-year-old thing. If you guys have kids older than 7, is 7 going into 8 a hard year? Like,
it's hard.
What is going on right now?
It's
the
so
attitude,
intense.
I don't want to say defiance because it's not necessarily defiance, but just like thinking he's in charge and can kind of do what he wants.
Yeah.
And the rules don't really apply right now. And I'm just like, what is this?
And eye rolling. Like, I'm sorry you're rolling your eyes at me.
The
like,
attitude voice back.
Ugh. And the just like telling, here's what like Zach the other day, I was like, okay, so you just lost iPad time. He got up to a month of not getting any, because he's allowed to play Roblox 30 minutes once a week if he's on his correct
Yeah.
behavior. I was like, you've lost a month. And he was like, then you don't get a phone for a month. And I was like,
Yes.
that's not how it works. And
Right.
he was like, it is how it works. And I
Yeah.
was like, but it's not how it works. And he was like, but it is. And I was like, oh my God.
Yes.
Like,
Yes, that's
I
exactly what
just
we're
walk
going through.
away. I just walk
Mhm.
the hell. Yeah. Somebody tell us if this is normal for 7 to 8, it's about to be
Oh my
8-year-olds
gosh.
to like,
Yeah.
to buck up at.
Which means homeschool has been so hard, but then
Yeah, it's hard.
also it goes off onto the little siblings. They start to pick up some of that. And it's just
Yes.
like, and then the older ones are bossing them, or it's hard. It's
Yes.
really hard.
So the older ones are so bad. We were just saying that to Zach right
Yeah.
downstairs before I came on to record. We were like, stop telling Mikey you need to do this. You need to do
Right.
this. You need to do this. Like, he's not your play toy. Like,
Yes.
let him live his own life. It's
And like
so
he is
hard.
stuck in the comparison right now. He needs to listen to this. Like, well, why doesn't she have to do
I
da 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 da?
know.
Well, because she's 3 and you're
Why is
almost 8.
Mikey's school so short? And I'm like, well, he technically doesn't even need to be in kindergarten yet. And
Yeah.
you are like doing second grade. So his is 15
Yep.
minutes and yours is 45 minutes.
So please
They are
reach out to us.
yeah, but they're
If you-
they're learning comparisons too. And my kids also are learning comparisons of like all their friends are getting on the
Yeah.
bus together every day and all their friends are going to after school activities every day. And I think that some of the attitude can be attributed to like how weird the world is right now, and they don't really understand. It doesn't seem fair to them, and they don't understand fairness. Children also don't understand gratitude, which I have to keep reminding my husband at all.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to.
It does not come natural. It's like
It
a
doesn't
work.
come
You have to
natural.
work on it.
It's so hard. And we've talked about in other episodes. You have to like, I tried to explain it to my son last night. And I was like, Daddy didn't have to take you. Last night, Zach was like, I'm so bored. And Josh was like, well, let's go out and do something. And so because Mikey and I are not feeling good. And so everywhere was too busy for them to go into, and everywhere's so short staffed. So Josh took him to get a donut, and then he came home and I was like, how was your night out? He's like, it was a bummer because everything was too busy and Dad wouldn't let me go in anywhere, and then he only gave me half a donut. And I was like, dude, you went out after your bedtime and got half a donut with your dad. Like, that's really rad.
Yeah.
And he was just like, But then he said to me, he goes, think how disappointed you would feel if you thought you were going to go to ... and then and I was like, okay, so he's saying to me he feel like you're allowed to feel disappointed.
Oh yeah,
You're not really allowed to be a dick about it.
Exactly.
But that's a conversation for tomorrow morning. Good night, my friend. I think that's another big part of comparing yourself to other people is the disappointment aspect. Like, I am very disappointed with how the world is going right now. And I think everyone is. And I think Glennon Doyle posted about this yesterday on Instagram, and I'll have to see if I can link this up, remind me. But she was just saying like how no one's willing to just say the world isn't the same as it used to be and it might never be again. And
we're trying to pretend like it is.
We're trying to pretend like it is. And we're all comparing ourselves to what we used to do before. And it's just not really realistic. Like, I have a girlfriend that's has a really high up executive position in a big company. And she's like, dude, my baby's barfing on me while I'm on Zoom calls that I'm running. And like, that's the world we live in now. And that was never the world we could have imagined 4 years ago. Zoom wasn't even in our vocabulary 4 years ago. And now it's our whole life. It's all my doctor's appointments. It's us right now. Like, it's everything. We have to stop comparing our 4 year ago self to our current self, who's got a lot more weight on our backs to start with.
Exactly. So with that, stop comparing yourself. And your best is enough. Which, it's easier said than done. But I think if you're aware that you're doing it, and then you sit back and you say, why am I doing this? What measures can I take to stop comparing myself? Do I need to set up, if it is a goal you actually want to achieve, maybe you do want to be able to take your family on vacation. Say, what little steps do I need to take to get there? Don't just sit there and compare and get yourself down. Those people didn't just wake up and say, okay, I'm going to go book this huge vacation that costs $20,000. Like, they probably got a job that could pay for it, or they saved money, or they did something that got them to where they're at. So maybe set those little goals and make them very realistic and current. What can I do today? What can I do tomorrow?
Well, and Jenna and Brandon did that when they decided that they wanted to have that RV part-time life, and they had to set a lot of goals, and they had to be financially really strict with some things. And I know a lot of people. I had another girlfriend that you and I both know that decided she was going to pay off her debt in 1 year, and so she was like, sorry, we aren't doing anything extra for this year because our money is fully budgeted and we're not spending anything that's not a necessity because we're going to pay off all of our debt this year. And those are steps you can take if it's something that means a lot to you. But also my thought is, like me, if you think that you really want something, and then all of a sudden, my marathon, if you think you really want something and then you get 2 days into it and realize it doesn't matter and you're just doing it because it seems like a fun lot, like, you can dip out.
Oh, yeah. I've done it a lot.
I'm a big fan of quitting things and not being hard on yourself. People are really hard on themselves when they quit stuff, and you shouldn't be.
Well,
it's
and that's
not
why
a good
these
fit.
like year-long resolutions don't always fit, because that you don't know what you'll be in a year. And you might have something else that piques your interest. Like, it doesn't mean, Janelle doesn't mean like quit everything and then do nothing. Like, find something else that like you want to do.
What would bring me more joy? When I was going to start marathon training, I was like, what do I actually like to do? And I was like, oh, I like to sprint. Like, that's never gonna work. Sprinting as fast as I can run and lifting weights is never, because if you're marathon training, you're not really giving yourself enough time to like do weight training and yoga, and like, maybe you are. I know there's some superheroes out there. Thank you, superheroes, for keeping the bar high. But I just think that we all need to be a lot more forgiving of quitting things. I'm a huge proponent of quitting things that don't fit you anymore.
Me too. So be a quitter.
Be a quitter. Let's call this episode "Be a Quitter."
I'm down for it. Be a quitter, but don't be a lowlife.
Well, like, can we change the name of the podcast to that, do you think? I thought that it was a really important discussion, just because as we go into a new year, we're year 472 into, I saw somebody call the pandemic the Panera today, and now I just want to call the pandemic the Panera.
Like on accident?
No, like that. Like, everybody's giving it like cute nicknames. Like, somebody was calling it the Pandy, and then like the Panda Express. Like, so if you want to understand that we are all this is what we don't talk about. So everyone is comparing themselves to everyone. Someone's comparing themselves to you, and you're comparing yourself to someone else. And your strengths don't match her strengths, and her strengths don't match your strengths. And just know that if you get into a situation and it's not working for you, you can always step back and reevaluate the situation. You don't have to stay married to it forever, literally and figuratively.
Yep. So true. And with that, call your therapist.
And take your meds.
2, 3, 4.